tell, then you see the road. I'm out to my soul into the sides whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect. Do it. All of that green together, the truth, yeah. Tell you the
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of, What If BEN10 Meets Azumanga Daioh? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of J-Boy44 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. It was a peaceful afternoon in Bellwood. Osaka, Sakaki, Jessica, Ben, Gwen, Kevin, Henry and Chiyo were gathered at Mr. Smoothie for the grand opening of a BEN10 Mr. Smoothie partnership. Osaka was drinking a smoothie from a cup that had heat blast on it. Mr. Ben, why did you become the spokesman for this place? You said you weren't in it for fame. Ben was about to speak but Kevin cut him off. Ben wrecked this place at least once a week with his fights, as all the bad guys know he comes here. Ben signed the contract so they can get more money from using his faces. Gwen then said, or in short he felt guilty and signed to make up for all the property damage. Sakaki was drinking for an Alien X cup and said, this Alien X smoothie is kind of a letdown. She then looked to Ben for a second before looking away blushing. Chiyo then said, then they truly captured Alien X. Ben then petted her head, well said Chiyo, well said. Henry then jumped and screamed as he hid behind Kevin, as Forever Knights barged in and right as Kevin absorbed metal, Gwen got her mana blast read and Ben was about to turn into Spider Monkey. The knights ran past them, grabbed a smoothie machine and left, leaving everyone shocked. Jessica blinked in confusion as she pointed to the door. Did the Forever Knights just come in here, pay aliens no mind, steal a smoothie machine then run out? Ben blinked as he said, yes, that just happened. Did we step into some kind of parallel universe? Kevin then crossed his arms, while that would make sense, I don't think so. Sakaki then check out her badge, well I just checked the news lately, Forever Knights have stolen videos out of an arcade, big screen TVs, stereos and now a smoothie machine. Henry blinked, what are they making a man cave? Chiyo then said, Big Brother, I think this calls for an investigation. Ben was about then asked, but where to, Stark? Sakaki then showed them a castle out of Bellwood. Oh, we have a spot under watch. No, there is this company making castles called, A Knight's Home is a Castle. Jimmy submit pretty good evident that it's Forever Knight run thanks to his informant. Not good enough to officially move in, but still good. Gwen blinked, he has an informant. Sakaki then said, report says it is a Forever Knight who online games and can't say no to a bet and always holds up his word. Jimmy just keeps beating him in games and asking questions and he keeps answering. He gave us all of them, he is really trying to make up for spoiling your secret identity. Chiyo then raised her hand and with cartoonish fire behind her said, he'll never make up for this. Jessica pointed at her and said, most adorable rage ever. Ben then threw Jessica his keys, here Jessica get Osaka, Chiyo, and Henry home, take my car. Sakaki then raced off with Ben's team. Chiyo then looked to Jessica, wait 15 minutes then follow them by tracking Big Brother's watch. Jessica then gave them a thumbs up, Chiyo you know it. Later on Ben, Kevin, Gwen and Sakaki got out of the car and saw knights lowering the drawbridge of the castle and inviting them in. Gwen looked around, okay it's officially opposite day. Kevin nodded as he saw Ben's Utimatrix go into scan mode, making a hologram of an armadillo-like alien appear. They then spotted this alien next to Arjit who was sitting on a throne. Arjit then pointed to him, hi guys, meet my new friend Andreas, his powers have this knight so scared they made me their new king. Kevin then said, I don't like opposite day. Arjit then snapped his fingers making some knights bring out a giant box of money, I can finally pay you back Kevin my friend. Kevin looked at the money then looked away, I can't take it. It's dirty money. My new Big Brother / good guy standards won't let me take it. Arjit blink, wait you have a sibling. Why didn't you tell me? Kevin then crossed his arms, because I don't want my little brother hanging out with rats. Arjit then blinked before pointing at Kevin. Well played, Kevin. Well played. At that point a forever knight without a helmet carrying a large energy weapon walked in. I am Sir Dagonet. The knights outside have told me if your crime's alien using death threats to force our noble knights to work for you. Arjit jumped and pointed to Ben's team. They made me do it. Andreas morphed then used his pistons to punch the ground making the ground shake like an earthquake. Kevin fell over and started to absorb stone as Gwen formed a mana dome around her and Sakaki. Ben fell over as he was about to change making him by mistake turn into his new form NRG. Andreas stopped for a moment. You look like my friend. At that moment the Forever Knight fired on Andreas knocking out the alien. Ben then got off and fired a radiation blast on Dagonet hitting him in the chest knocking him down and making him drop his weapon. Arjit then tried to run only to be grabbed by a Forever Knight while others chained up the knocked out Andreas. The beast be down. We need no longer listen to the wrath. Kevin got up and morphed his hand into stone mace as the knights drew their blades. So good to have things back to normal. Gwen dropped her dome as Sakaki pulled out her blaster. Only for a knight to grab Sakaki from behind and she gasped as an energy sword was to her neck. The knight then said, I have the human lay down your arms and surrender to us aliens. While we don't want to hurt humans if it means defeating the alien menace we will do so. Kevin then returned to normal as Gwen lowered her hands. NRG then returned to being Ben as he raised his hands. You're a bigger rat than Arjit. Moments later Kevin, Arjit and Sakaki were in a cell. Kevin's hands were in energy cuffs stopping him from using his absorption powers. Gwen was trapped in an energy draining machine stopping her form using mana. Ben was locked in a stockade, outside the cell facing them no one able to reach the dial of the Matrix. Well, this is a fine mess we're in. Arjit then said, we need to get out of here. Kevin growled as he looked at Arjit and leave Andreas. I thought he was your friend. Arjit then crossed his arms, not when it comes to getting me killed. Sakaki then said, dirty rat. In a moment they heard something in a vent, that said, don't worry. Ben blinked knowing the voice. Chiyo, what are you doing here? Chiyo then kicked off a vent and jumped out falling on her face. She teared up and rubbed her face for a moment. We followed you guys. Arjit then blinked, who's the short stack? Ben then looked at him, my little sister. Arjit blinked, does everyone but me have siblings? In a moment Chiyo ran to Ben, and turned the Matrix dial making it pop up and she slammed down turning Ben into his new form that looked like Andreas with green eyes and the Daioh on his chest. The change had shattered the stockade freeing Ben as he said, Armadillo. He then morphed his hand into a drill and drilled the lock off the cell freeing Arjit and Sakaki. Kevin then walked out of it. And Ben drilled off the cuffs freeing his hands. Kevin smiled and touched the metal bars and absorbed the metal, thank you Ben. As Arjit ran out Ben used a piston-powered drill punch to shatter the machine Gwen was in freeing her. Gwen smiled as she got out and made her hands glow with mana. We should be mad about this following us thing but without it we would have died. Moments later, in the throne room a locked able to move Andreas was about to be shoot by Dagonet's big gun. I set the power level up this time it'll kill you. As he fired Chromastone jumped in the way absorbing the blast and throwing it back at the gun making it explode. Knocking the knight back. At that moment mana disc cut Andreas free. Andreas morphed his hands into drills and said, I'm free. The knight got up and blinked in shock, how? Chiyo walked in and stuck her tongue out at him. I snuck in through the vents and freed them. The knight growled, to forever knights beaten thanks to a little girl. This dishonor will not stand. He then pulled out a device and hit a button making announcement of base self-destruct in 10 minutes. Kevin's eyes widen, say what? The knight laughed insanely, this base power core will now explode with enough force it will not only kill us all, but damage part of that alien lovely pile of filth you call Bellwood. BEN10 shall now fall before us. Andreas then began punching the ground with great force as he said, now if I protect my new friends by burying this place so far down the only thing that will happen is a small quake. Guys get out of here now. Ben nodded as became XLR8 and cried, "You are a true hero, Andreas." XLR8 then grabbed hold of Chiyo and Sakaki and ran out at high speed, not even noticing Sakaki's blush. Gwen covered her and Kevin in a mana dome, making themselves vanish. They appeared at Ben's car to see Osaka, Jessica, Ben, Chiyo and Henry watching in shock as the castle fell into the ground. Osaka smiled and blinked, "What's going on?" Chiyo was crying as Ben put a hand on her shoulder and said, "A hero giving the ultimate sacrifice to protect people, he doesn't even know, because the thought of even one death was too much for him." The castle soon fell completely underground as the ground shook violently for a few moments before stopping. Kevin put a hand on Henry's shoulder, "It's over. Andreas sacrificed his life to keep everyone safe." Arjit then walked up saying, "My stuck." In a moment Arjit's face met a metal hammer hand of Kevin's, who said, "Adria's just died to save your life and you only care about your stolen CRP. Arjit got up and dusted himself off and left. "I don't get you anymore, Kevin." Gwen then smiled and said, "No, someone like you won't." Ben then got down and hugged a crying Chiyo, "It's okay, Chiyo, big brother is here." Sakaki then saluted as she said, "Thank you, Andreas. We didn't know you for long, but you're a hero." Later on, when the sun had set, Andreas was digging himself out, hurt badly but still alive. "It hurts." At which point he pointed at Gregor and screamed. It was late one night at Ben's house when a jellyfish-like alien popped out of the phone and moved looking for Ben. It must be destroyed. In a moment the fish found himself punched out a window into the pool in the backyard by Ben as Frankenstrike. "Do you think I wouldn't notice power spikes heading to my own home, dude?" Chiyo then walked out of her room rubbing her eyes as she spotted Ben turning into jet ray and flying out of the window to fight an alien in the backyard. Her young eyes widened fast. She was wide awake now. "Mom, Dad, alien broke into our house." In the backyard the alien tried to charge up a lighting blast, but Jetray's optic blasts knocked him into the water, making him short out, leaving a floating twitching knocked out cold jellyfish in the pool. Ben then landed and became human once more. Ben then saw his mom poking her head out the window as Ben said, "Mom, can you call Gwen and Kevin? This guy isn't looking too good." When the alien awakened he was in an abandoned building facing Ben, Kevin and Gwen, trapped in an energy dome. Ben then said, "You must be Ariad." Ariad then banged on the dome, "You idiot. Do you not know how easy it is to track what lays on your wrist, active-inactive signal? Because Egregor does." Ben gasped, "What?" Ariad looked to be in tears, "My friends. Egregor has them again. Because he was tracking you. Tricking you into gathering them up into a place where he could just kill guards and take them. Hero, my butt. You weren't even smart enough to make sure they got home, or to make sure no one was tailing them. Because of your stupidity my friends are captured once more. Now he's hunting me." Ben was pale and looked down as he looked at the Ultimatrixes and growled, "But the Omnitrix could only be tracked when it was in use. Piece of junk. No, I won't be mad at the watch, this is my mistake." Kevin then said, "Look buddy, we all know Ben isn't that smart, when he isn't gray matter or brainstorm, but he won't help him willingly. Look, we can let you out and all fight Egregor together." Ariad then sparked with lighting, "Keep your dirty Osmosian hands away from me." In a moment he let out a powerful electric burst from his body that destroyed the energy dome, allowing him to charge at Ben as the Ultimatrix went into scan mode. Right as he was scanned Ariad touched and shocked the Ultimatrix, "It most be datoried." In a moment a blinding flash of light hit, knocking Ben into a wall as Ariad vanished. Ben looked to the Ultimatrix, clearly showing damage in the form of electric sparks. How could this get any worse? In a moment an alien ship crashed and out walked Egregor, and Kevin absorbed some scrap metal and morphed his left arm into a shield and right hand into a sword. "Dude, you never say those words." Gwen then charged her mana, and fired only for Egregor's spear to absorb the energy and fire it back at her, knocking her down. "Where is Ariad?" Kevin then charged, "I'm not scared of you. You're just like me." Egregor growled as he used his spear to hold back Kevin's sword as he said, "More like you than you know." He then kicked Kevin away. Ben then tried to change but only saw Ariad's race. Okay fine, he then slammed down and transformed. When it was done he said, amphibian. Gregor then turned and said, that'll do. He then tried to spear Ben, but Ben flew back and fired off an electric blast only for the spear to again absorb the blast and fire it back at its owner. I've used you for so much, why not for my ultimate plan? Ben then phased through the floor and appeared up through it by Kevin and Gwen. The Matrix won't let me go back to normal or change forms. Gwen then held her hands out and in a moment they vanished and appeared at Kevin's warehouse. Ben's eyes changed to Ariad's for a moment and asked, what is the meaning of this? Ben's eyes then returned to normal as he held her head. Kevin then pulled out a tube and said, my guess is the Ultimatrix is overload. Just a moment, I can reverse the hacking machine to pull energy out instead of send in, and we can SCK the extra power out, and that should fix it by forcing a shutdown and restart. Gwen then said, how about we not use that thing as last time you became a monster? Ben then said, guys, I didn't ask that. In a moment his eyes became Ariad's again. Somehow I've been pulled inside. Not the best answer, but as it's not inactive Gregor can't track it. It will do. Ben's eyes then returned, get out of my head. Ariad then took over again as said, it's my head, you get out. Ben then took back control as he said, I'll give you that one. Gwen was staring in shock, this is weird. Kevin then absorbed RBB form attire as he grabbed the tube, don't worry Ben buddy. Kevin's coming. He then tackled amphibian and touched the tube to the Matrix as it began to SCK out power, and Kevin said, bring it on. In a moment a bright blast happened and Kevin found himself normal but in the wall, and as he got out he said, well, I'm going to be score in the morning. Kevin then saw the smoke clear to reveal Ariad and amphibian facing each other. Well, what do you know, it worked. In a moment Ben returned to human form by way of timeout, and Ariad ran saying, he'll be coming now you fools. In a moment Gregor's ship crashed through the warehouse, making Gwen summon a dome around herself. A large piece of the roof hit Kevin, knocking him out. Gwen ran to him as Ben said, Gwen, get Kevin out of here, this is my fight. Ben looked to the hologram of Brainstorm and was about to slam it down, but he stopped. Flashback. Chiyo was drinking a smoothie in the back seat of Ben's car and said, then big brother, you became ultimate 4 arms and beat up that guy with a spear and 4 horns. Ben smiled, yeah, that seems like something I would do. Flashback end. Ben then turned to Daioh to 4 arms and said, Chiyo's dream has been right so far. Let's do this, you and me, Gregor. In a moment Ben slammed down the Daioh and became 4 arms. 4 arms shout his name and turned the Daioh, making him go ultimate as he said, ultimate 4 arms. Ben then charged with a 3-armed right hook to Gregor, who tried to block it with his spear only for ultimate 4 arms to break it. Gregor jumped back in shock as he absorbed the metal form, it turning into a being made of metal, and turned his hands into copy of his spear's head. Gwen then teleported out with the knocked out Kevin as she said, take care Ben. Gregor then charged only for ultimate 4 arms to be able to avoid his strikes and for 2-fist left hook to hit him in the stomach, making him gasp. As Gregor went down to hold his gut, Ben's knee came up, hitting him in the chin, knocking him back. Gregor got up, losing his absorbed metal as he couched up, BLD, this can't be happening, I need that power. Ben then grabbed him with 1 arm and said, why? Why would you kill and do such horrible things for power? What reason do you have? Gregor then coughed and said, my own survival. You idiot, Osmosians all have different powers by way or random mutant. While I have the same absorption power as your friend Kevin. You're too stupid to figure it out. He then touched Ben, making him back away as he felt power leave him. He then spotted Gregor without his coat and now having 6 arms charging at him. Ben catch all 6 fists as Gregor said, here's another hint, I wasn't born, I was made using a piece of Kevin. Ultimate 4 arms eyes widen, you're a clone. Gregor then head-butted Ben, knocking him back as he said, correct. And not a very good one. My age very fast. To the point I'll be lucky to live another year. I need power to prolong my life. A life I never asked for, mind you. Ben got up and said, no one asks for life. It's giving to us. Now I feel sorry for you, Clone Dome. But I can't let you hurt others. I have to stop you. You shadow of how my friend was. In a moment Ultimate Forearms became normal and changed into Big Chill. Big Chill then went Ultimate and breathed Ice Fire, freezing Egregor. Egregor then broke free as he coughed again, and Ben noticed his hair was graying. Ben then snapped his fingers as he went intangible to avoid his punches. That's it. You used a weapon to the absorption as use of your powers speeds up your aging. Ben then returned to normal and covered his face with the Omnitrix, and Egregor gasped as his fist hit it, sending him flying back in a green spark. Ben then watched as Egregor morphed into all of the forms he had used up till no form one to the other, just like when it hit Kevin. But it stopped when Egregor ended up having his head looking like Ariadne's skin, NRG's grill plate around his neck, Terraspin's shell as a torso, Armadillo's arms, and Waterhazard's legs. Egregor laughed as he stood up. The power I want is now mine, you foolish boy. I can even sense other powers inside it, making up for the percent I have of them. Ben smirked as he said, but for how long your aging speed up when you absorbed two things, metal and Ultimate Forearms, you just absorbed about 80 aliens. Now that sounds like 40 age boosts to me. Egregor then gasped as he saw his skin wrinkling, his hair growing, and oh. He then charged with a drill fist only for Ben to become Ghost Freak and vanish form sight. Ben then reappeared and punched him in the face before vanishing. There is an old earth saying, be careful what you wish for, you might just get it. Egregor gasped as he said, no. This can't be. He then began to age more and more till he lost his new form and became an old man version of his normal self. Egregor fell to his knees and reached for Ben. How did you do this? How did you beat me? How could you beat me when I had what I was after, the power of what you call Alien X? Ben smiled as he crossed his arms. You only get about 10% of those powers, man, and second, simple, my little sister told me I should use Ultimate Forearms against the man with 4 horns. If I didn't listen I never would have noticed the speed up. Egregor laughed, me beaten thanks to a little girl. In a moment Egregor fell over as his DNA fell apart, making him turn into green slime. Ben shivered as he became human again and turned to leave. That's going to haunt me for a while. Later on at Ben's house. Kevin was sitting on the couch with bandages on his head. Wait, Egregor was a clone of me? Ben then said, that's what he said, and I double-checked the information he gave, it was true. It's been shown that Osmosian kids can have powers similar to one of their parents, but 2 unrelated Osmosians have similar powers is impossible. Kevin held his head. I feel so violated. Chiyo then blinked and said, then what's to stop whoever made Egregor form making another? Ben, Gwen and Kevin then looked to Chiyo and said, thanks for the new worry, Chiyo. Meanwhile, in a base deep inside the null void, a human cerebrocrustacean hybrid in a black armored suit was watching it on video. I guess the old sayings are true, bootlegs don't last as long or work as well as the real thing. I'll have to adjust my plans and revisit Kevin sometime in the future. But for now I most cut my loses on this cloning thing. He then left, turning of the video, and look into this Chiyo girl and how she seems to have seen all this coming. Elsewhere, Paradox was looking over Bellwood smiling. Paradox then said it, finally a universe where Ben was smart enough not to fight Egregor, who had a weapon meant to hunt electric-powered beings, as an electrical-powered being. This is the only universe I've seen that did this. And that avoided Kevin's ultimate mutation. Paradox then opened a portal. Big brother Ben, you are a one-of-a-kind Ben. Bellwood was in the middle of a heat wave, yet in Ben's backyard it was snowing. Chiyo and Ben were having a snowball fight as Chiyo said, thank you weather station. She then pointed to it and said, best gift ever. Ben then throws snowball at Chiyo and said, yeah thank you Riney. In a moment a plumber craft hovered over them and Kevin stuck his head out. Ben, we need you buddy. Ben then dropped the snow and dusted himself off, but I'm supposed to be watching Chiyo while my parents are out. Gwen's voice then said, just bring her with us. She always follows somehow anyway. Ben then slammed down the dial and became Stinkfly and grabbed Chiyo and said, true true. Ben then flew them on board the craft and became human again. Chiyo then took slow deep breaths. Stinkfly. Ben then spotted Sakaki and waved and she looked away blushing. As Chiyo took a seat and buckled up, Ben asked, "So what's this about?" Gwen then pulled up images of an exploded Area 51, former USA Colonel Razum now on his way to becoming incarcerated prisoner 91, captured and trapped aliens in Area 51, because they weren't human. Chiyo gasped and said, "But a living thing is a living thing." Sakaki nodded, "Some people don't see it like that, Chiyo. It's horrible but true." Kevin, who was flying, then said, "The real kicker here is the fact when the place exploded, one of the captured aliens saved his butt and straight up told him, 'We've not human, but all of us are a better person than you.'" Ben then said, "Okay, so why am I need?" Gwen then said, "Because one prisoner named number 775, the one who made the bomb to blow the place and get everyone free, is missing. That's why." Ben then said, "So you need Wildmutt's nose to find him and send the guy on a spaceship ride home." Kevin nodded as they landed at the ruined Area 51 and got off. They then walked to the remains of number 775 cell. Ben then turned the dial to Wildmutt. "Okay, I got it." He then slammed the dial down and transformed and roared. Wildmutt looked a little different. He now had red stripes in his fur running from his head to his back and a tail wagging behind him. Chiyo then yelled out, "Wildmutt." Everyone then looked to her and she said, "What?" "Someone had to do it for him. Wildmutt can't talk." Wildmutt then sniffed and ran off in a hurry with everyone running behind him. They spotted Wildmutt running into a cave. Ben's point of view. "I walked into this cave. I figured it was dark, but Wildmutt has no eyes. My other sense painting a picture of the world. I could see inside this place as if it was lit. That is when I spotted the alien crying. I walked closer. I could hear the Udamatrix going into scan mode and backed away as the thing turned around and jumped back in shock. I could hear him say, 'Come on Volpomancer, kill me.' I backed away in shock. It then attacked me, knocking me back as he screamed for me to kill him. I slammed the dial and went ultimate and roared, 'Out, ultimate Wildmutt.' I then pushed him off me. The alien looked confused and ran deeper into the cave. 'Come on, end me.' I had to give chase. 'Look, can't we talk about this? Why do you want to die?' In a moment the Udamatrix beeped, leaving me human, and in complete darkness. I looked around as I heard him ask, 'What are you? What kind of freak are you?' He was clearly in the dark. 'I am BEN10, holder of the omnitrix. I know I don't have it on my wrist anymore, but I figured the guy had a better chance of knowing about the omnitrix than the Udamatrix.' I heard him saying, 'Never heard of it, now hurry up and kill me.' I then asked, 'Why?' I then heard him say, 'For 50 years I was locked in that cell. Away from the only family I had left, my little sister. She grew up without me. Because I was stupid enough to trust a hairless ape.' I then called out into the darkness as I said, 'I know how you feel. I'm a big brother too. And if Chiyo was taken from me I would probably feel the same way, but you're free. You can go home. You can go back to your little sister. Please just come with me so we can send you home.' The alien then jumped on me and pinned me. I felt a blade at my neck as I saw its glowing blue, green and red eyes. 'Why should I listen to you?' I then noticed the Udamatrix was in the green and slammed down on the dial, transforming into a copy of this alien. I then said, 'Chameleon. I'm you.' The thing jumped back. This alien had night vision, so I could see him till he turned invisible. I then tried it and watched as my skin tone changed to make it make what was behind me. What this is camouflage, not invisibility. I then turned the dial to change. Return to third person pointed of view. Ben had become heat blast, his flames lighting the cave as he spotted the alien's shadow and grabbed him by the neck, holding the nearly invisible alien by the neck. 'Got you.' The alien reappeared crying, unable to stop, and heat blast dropped him. The former prisoner fell over crying, 'I just want my little sister back.' Heat blast whipped a tear from my eyes. 'The man who did this to you are going to be locked up forever. He'll never see his family again. While you on the other hand now have a chance to return to yours.' Heat blast then kneeled down to him. Heat blast looked at as he asked, 'Why if she hates me? What if she hates me?' Heat blast then looked back as Gwen, Kevin, Chiyo and Sakaki arrived. Heat Blast then said, "You're her big brother, she won't hate you." The former prisoner then cried as he said, "I want to go home now." The team then guided him away. Sakaki then looked back to Ben. What happened? Ben, who was still Heat Blast, returned too human as he said, "We found common ground." Soon the former prisoner was loaded onto a waiting plumber craft. A craft that would take him home. Later on, Sakaki was in her bed, and as she fell asleep she began to dream. In her dream, Sakaki was in uniform in a plumber base when Chiyo Shishi showed up and said, "Hello, Miss Sakaki." Sakaki waved, "Hello." She then bowed. Chiyo Shishi then said, "It's been a while, but you seem to need me about this crush you have on Mr. Tennyson." Sakaki blushed and looked away, blushing. Ben. Chiyo Chichi then said, "Miss Sakaki, he has a girlfriend, and trust me when I say him and Jessica are simply meant to be." Sakaki looked down sadly, "Oh." Chiyo Shishi then said, "But look up, Sakaki, you'll find love thanks to your new job, and while it will be with someone who isn't completely human, it won't be Ben." Sakaki nodded and said, "Yeah, and beside it won't be right. Chiyo thinks of me as her best friend. I should be ashamed of even thinking of her brother like that." Chiyo Shishi laughed, "No. There is nothing to be ashamed about having a crush on someone, you just need to know when it's hopeless and move along to find love, instead of a silly little crush." Sakaki then nodded, "I guess you're right." Chiyo Shishi then said, "Yes, I know, now it's time for you to get up. Your next day is starting and it will be an eventful weekend for you guys. Now while I do so enjoy talking to you, I hope I won't be need again anytime soon." Sakaki nodded and woke up in the place she was staying at while in America with a yawn and said, "Well, another day." Meanwhile, Chiyo was reading something on the extranet at breakfast. "Big brother, someone post this, from former number 775. Thank you to BEN10 for helping me out of my depression and getting me home, and back to my little sister." Ben smiled as he said, "Just doing the hero thing." At Mr. Smoothie, Gwen, Kevin, Ben, Chiyo, Jessica, Henry, Osaka and Sakaki were just hanging out. Osaka was drinking a smoothie when she saw a strange book and picked it up and looked at it, opening it and reading something, Incendia Absum. Osaka then dropped the book as her left hand glowed and a gust of wind lunged for her. Gwen then looked and said, "My spell book, you got one of the spells to work." She then picked it up and Osaka looked at her hands in shock. Chiyo's eyes widened. "Miss Osaka cast a spell and it worked, that means she has the spark of magic." Osaka's eyes were wide as she said, "Give it to me straight. What's wrong with me?" Ben then took a sip of smoothie before saying, "Nothing is wrong with you, Osaka, you're just a witch." Osaka's eyes widened, as she looked at her hands. "Me? A witch? I need to get a little black kitten." Sakaki then blushed at it. Jessica hid behind Ben and said, "Well, now I'm scared. What if she cast a spell by mistake? I mean, this is Osaka we're talking about." Gwen then put a hand on Osaka's shoulder. "Don't worry, I'll teach her." A growl was then heard as a mana blast hit the ground, making everyone jump back to see Charmcaster. In a moment Ben pushed Jessica and Chiyo behind him as he began Terra Spin. "Okay, Charmcaster, my shell is magic proof." Kevin then pushed Henry behind him as he touched the ground and absorbed stone and made his hands into hammers. "I'm ready to do this." Gwen then held out her hands as they glow. "Why won't you leave me alone?" She then threw a mana blast at Charmcaster. Charmcaster then made a shield, "Because your power was given to you by BRTH. While I had to work and struggle for everything I have. You're just a spoiled brat who ever had to work to get stronger." Ben then span through the barrier, knocking her back into a parked car as he landed on his feet and put his fin on his head. "I have got to get used to this spinning to fly thing." Kevin then tried to hit Charmcaster only for her to vanish and appear behind Gwen. At that moment Osaka picked up the spell book and read a spell. At the moment Gwen and Charmcaster casted their own. In a blinding moment all three spells crossed, making all three young magical ladies vanish. Sakaki looked shocked. What just happened? At that moment Verdona showed up and said, "I know, I sensed one of my granddaughters I now cross spell." Jessica and Chiyo hid behind Ben looking at her strangely, while Henry hid behind Kevin. Verdona looked around and then to Ben. Ben, care to introduce Grandma to the new faces? Sakaki, Chiyo and Jessica's eyes widen. Ben then said, right, the kid behind Kevin is his little brother Henry. He then put a hand around Jessica. This is Jessica, my girlfriend. Verdona then floated over and shook her hand. Nice to meet you, Jessica, you break my grandson's heart, you will pay. Now who's the little girl? While Jessica's eyes widened, Ben said, Chiyo, mom and dad adopted her, so she's my little sister. In a moment Verdona's energy hair moved and tickled Chiyo's stomach, making her laugh. So I have another granddaughter, why am I the last to hear about it? Kevin then coughed. You said something about a cross spell. Verdona then looked and said, right, Devin, when multiple spells hit you don't know what will happen in this case. I sense Gwen's mana signature but not on Earth. So looks like the spells mixed into a transport spell. Verdona then held out her hand, making a gate show up, that had strange symbols. Feels like she's in the magical dimension that overlaps with Earth. Let's call it by its original ledger domain. Chiyo blinked in confusion. Original name? Verdona then smiled and went back to using her hair to tickle her, making Chiyo laugh and giggle. Verdona smiled and said, so cute. In magic, names are power. In this case you can't get in or out of letter domain unless you know its current name, which its leader can change at will. Sakaki then blinked. So what, those strange symbols are magical letters? Verdona then looked to her. Sorry I didn't catch your name, Plumber, but it's more like symbols or words, but yes, those are the clues to its name. The mix spell allowed them to skip past this lock. But if we want Gwen and whoever else I sensed involved in it back, we have to crack the code. She put her hand on the door. The symbol on the door is one half the name, either the first half or the second half, and the symbols around the frame are other parts of the name. Now at any moment these symbols could change, showing the realm's leader changed the name. Kevin then said, so let's get code cracking and figure out the name before it changes. Sakaki then pulled out her badge and set it to code cracking. I'll use my badge to make a list of the possible combinations, and the name Sakaki. Verdona then smiles, then I'll just read them off. If it doesn't change in the middle of it, the symbols then changed. Verdona looked down. Looks like it's set to auto name change. So much for plan A. Anyone got a plan B? Kevin then started return to normal. What if I just absorb the stuff it's made of it? Verdona put a hand to her chin. I do so hate to agree with you, Dave, but that could work. The door could thing you're part of it, allowing you to force it open. Kevin growled, okay, that one was on purpose. Verdona then said, and you think all the other times I said your name wrong weren't on purpose? Kevin then growled and touched the door and the frame, absorbing magical stone and wood with magical symbol appearing on his chest as he grabbed it and morphed his hands into crowbars and began to slowly rip it open. This thing is a fighter. Henry then cheered, you can do it, big brother. Meanwhile, in the magical realm of Letterdomain, Gwen and Charmcaster were firing off mana blasts at one-eyed stone bats. Osaka looked in the book and figured out how to fire a mana blast and hit one. I did it. Charmcaster then growled, now she is going to outwitch me. Gwen then yelled, will you shut up? How about instead of focusing on not being born strong, you take pride in the strength you worked for? You know, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Osaka then made a mana shield to stop one of them from firing at her. I have to agree with Gwen. Your dad won't want you feeling sorry for yourself. Advaita then showed up, so the daughter of Spellbinder has returned. I don't know how you snuck past the gate, but it will matter not. He then fired off mana blasts from his eyes. Gwen, Charmcaster and Osaka all then made one magic barrier together that blocked it, making Advaita gasp, but how? Gwen smiled, it's called teamwork. Listen, Charmcaster, we can beat him if we work together. All three of us some attack spell. All three then dropped the barrier and said, Eradico. In a moment mana beams left their hands and trapped Advaita in a sphere which exploded. When the dust cleared, Advaita coughed. He was burned but still standing. That hurt. Osaka then smiled, sorry Mr. Flaming Head Terraspin, but you are the bad guy. Advaita then waved his hand, making Osaka and Gwen vanish. If together you three can harm me, then alone you shall fall, Charmcaster. In another part of Letterdomain, Osaka and Gwen were standing on one alone little floating rock looking down at the void below them. When a magical pink energy stair set to a door appeared and Kevin hung out of the door as he and Verdona held it open. Verdona then said, "Gwen sweetie, get your friend and get out, we can't hold the door open for much longer." Osaka then said, "But what about Miss Charmcaster?" Charmcaster then appeared standing on an energy plate form. "Go. You were right, I need to stop feeling sorry for myself, and that means no longer running from this fight. You've proven Advata can be hurt, if he can be hurt he can be defeated. I'll stand and fight, this is my BRTH place." She then held her hand out making a gust of wind blow Osaka and Gwen up the stairs and through the door, making it close. Charmcaster then smiles, "Okay, I'm not running anymore, thanks for the pep talk Gwen." She then vanished. Later on in Bellwood, Osaka was in Gwen's backyard practicing spells from a copy of Gwen's spell book on a tree. While Gwen was searching every magic book she could find, there has to be a way to help Charmcaster. Gwen then saw a letter appear and she picked it up and read, "Dear Gwen, I want to thank you, you were right, I've been feeling sorry for myself and taking it out on someone born made of magic. I tricked myself into believing you didn't deserve it. I've been running from this fight and targeting the wrong person for the last 6 years of my life." Gwen then took a breath. "I'm done running, I'm still alive and Advata is still hurting from our combined attack and I know his weakness, the Alpha Rune. A magic charm that gives the owner powerful magic. His magic comes completely from wearing it. I know his weakness now and I will use it. Time I fix things by being smart for once." Gwen then finished, signed Charmcaster, real name Hope. Gwen smiles and whipped a tear from her. "Yes, well Hope, I hope you have turned your life around and win this fight." Meanwhile in Letterdomain, Charmcaster smirked as she held the Alpha Rune in her hand and looked at a bond Advata. "I have to thank Osaka and Gwen, if not for our combined spell the rope holding this around your neck would not have broken from my last attack." Charmcaster flipped it and caught it. "I own it now, so all your power is mine, and this realm is mine." Advata, whose head fire now went out, "So you dare to mock me, child? Go ahead, end me and avenge your father." Charmcaster shook her head, "No. Dad won't want that, and I've thought about bringing him back to life, but he won't like people being traded for him. All the years I waste when beating you was this simple, knock the necklace off. I've wasted years of my life in self-hate, blaming myself for not being stronger." Charmcaster then finished with, "When the real reason my dad died is because none of you stopped to figure you out. None of us took the moment to look up your power. The reason my father died, the reason my people died, is because you outsmarted us. Not because you out-magicked us." She then flipped her hair, "So I think leaving you here trapped powerless is the perfect punishment." She then vanished to a castle and fixed the rope on the Alpha Rune and put it on. "I guess this castle belongs to me now." Eunice, who was now dressed in a green jumpsuit, with black gloves, boots and a white, was walking over to the codon stream. She pulled out a handheld device. To check it, she soon made a confused face and hit the call button, making Azmatha's face appear on a hologram screen. "Dad, something is up with the Arachnikimp DNA." Azmath then said, "Then take some scan bots and go collect a new sample, sweetie." Eunice jumped for joy and said, "Yay! I get to borrow the spaceship." Azmath rolled his eyes, teenagers. Meanwhile on Earth, Ben was walking down the street when something tackled him. He knew who this spider monkey-like alien was. It was Simeon. Simeon was in tears. "Ben, please help, I made a horrible mistake. An alien's taking over my home planet. Please help." Ben then pushed the monkey off and got up as he said, "Give me one reason to trust you." Simeon then pulled out video of DN alien Arachnikimps. "This enough?" At that point Chiyo walked up and looked between Ben and the spider monkey look-alike. "What the?" Later in the Rust Bucket 3, Ben, Gwen, Kevin and Simeon were on their way to the Arachnikimp home planet. Ben then got up, walked over to an overhead store compartment and opened it and said, "Okay Chiyo, I know you're in there." Chiyo then popped out and Ben grabbed her and sat her down. "Like I said, if we don't invite you, you'll just sneak on board. Simeon then said, who's the little girl? Chiyo then said, I'm Ben's little sister. Simeon was about to saw something but a mana platform dropped on his head making him hold it and say, ouch. Gwen then said, okay, what did you do? Simeon then said, well, after I escaped the hybrid after you guys ruined my plans, I took something that looked important and gave it to the crime boss Mizaru in hopes he would accept it as a substitute of the money I owed him. Sadly he did. I thought it was just an egg, but no, what watched out was a Xenocite queen. Kevin then said, and now the queen is using that guy as a host to make more to turn the planet into DN aliens, got it? You jacked up your own world so now it belongs to parasites. Chiyo stuck her tongue out at Simeon and said, bad monkey. Gwen then said, you took the words right out of our mouth, Chiyo. They then land and Kevin pulled out a DNA repair gun. Simeon then jumped into an overhead store unite, Chiyo stuck her tongue out, chicken monkey. Kevin then picked up a DNA repair gun as did Ben and Gwen. Ben opened the door and looked to Chiyo, stay put Chiyo. I don't want you getting turned into a DN alien. Chiyo nodded and said, okay, I'll babysit the bad monkey. Kevin, Gwen and Ben then left and spotted DN alien versions of Arachnikimp jumping out at them. Ben fired only for the beam to do nothing. He then quickly slammed down on the dial and became Arctiguana and breathed ice, freezing some of them. Kevin absorbed the gun's red metal and made a hammer hand to knock one away. Why aren't the guns working? Gwen made a mana barrier around her to hold them back, no idea. Arctiguana was about to breath more ice when the Utamatrix said, interference for second Primus signal shutting down. Ben then screamed, what? He then returned to being human and the Utamatrix won't let him transform. I miss my omnitrix. One of the DN alien was about to jump in but Eunice swung down on a vine and knocked it away. She had clearly copied powers from Arachnikimp. Eunice then looked down and spotted Ben. Oh, I'm so sorry. My dad gave me a remote link to Primus. She then blinked and a robotic voice said, Primus link turned off. The Utamatrix then light up and Ben became Terraspin and blow the Dnalians away. What are you doing here, Eunice? Eunice then said, Dad sent me to get a new sample of Arachnikimp DNA for the codon stream. Kevin then said, how about we get back into the ship to talk? They all then ran, back in with Gwen using her dome to hold back DN alien till the door closed. Simeon then popped out and asked, did you win? Ben then returned to being human and looked away from the monkey. Kevin threw the repair gun down, no, because these things won't work. Eunice then ripped out one of Simeon's hair and said, because they are made to repair human DNA they are useless against something that wasn't human. She then loaded the hair into a portal device which made the Utamatrix beep. Eunice smiles, there got the new DNA sample. Chiyo blinked, but then how do we save the day? Eunice then looked to Simeon and said, simple, we alter the repair gun to fire a pulse and alter it to repair Arachnikimp DNA. She then grabbed Simeon making him yell, and he'll do nicely. The ship then began to shake. Gwen then said, look, we'll teleport out and keep them busy. You work on whatever. Gwen then made herself Kevin and Ben vanish and repair at some kind of tree-top palace crawling with DN aliens. Then out walked Mizaru. He was very big. As the DN alien attacked Kevin and Gwen, Mizaru charged at Ben. Ben slammed down and became Spider Monkey and said, you're just like all the others. ASLV, who doesn't? No, their MSTR has lost. Mizaru laughed as he tried to crush Spider Monkey only for Ben to jump onto tree. I am no one's SLV. The Queen's mind had been remotely shut down. It was mindless when it connects onto me out of instinct. It was easy to overpower it and take control of it. I am Mizaru, the new king of this planet. He then jumped onto the tree after Ben, only for the young hero to back pull himself to another tree with a tail web. Your mother must be so proud. Mizaru then laughed. She was one of the first to be changed, but you think you can win one monkey versus me, the sum total of every last chimp on this planet. Ben then touched the dial. Right, I need to step my game up. Meet Ultimate Spider Monkey. Spider Monkey then took on his ultimate form and spat out webs trapping Mizaru as he jumped at him and started punching him right in his xenocite-covered face, making him scream. Ultimate Spider Monkey then said, "Any day I can turn the bad guy into a punching bag is a good day." Some DN alien chimps then tried to jump him, but Ultimate Spider Monkey span around his spider legs, knocking them away and hitting Mizaru. Ultimate Spider Monkey then howled, and banged his chest. Kevin was watching while he hit aliens and said, "Ben is going ape." A mana platform then hit him in the head, making him rub it, and turned to Gwen, "What did I do?" Gwen then said, "You used that horrible pun is what you did." Ultimate Spider Monkey then noticed Mizaru had finally broke out of the webs and was about to run, so the ultimate alien grabbed him by the leg and started slamming him into a tree trunk. "I'm going to ape you up." Mizaru screamed and said, "This is bananas." Ultimate Spider Monkey then roared out, "I work alone." Meanwhile, back in the ship, Chiyo had just finished duct taping Simeon down and attaching wires to him. The bad monkey is ready. Eunice had plugged the wires into the repair gun, and the gun into the ship. I just finished connect the gun into the ship weapon systems and altering them to fire a pulse instead of beams. Now Simeon, this will hurt you a lot, but you deserve to be honest. She then hit the fire button and Simeon screamed as he was shocked as a green pulse fired formed the ship covering the planet. All over the planet xenocytes start to die and fall off their host, returning them to normal. Ultimate Spider Monkey then dropped the now normal Mizaru. "Well, we're done." Ultimate Spider Monkey then became Spider Monkey, then Ben, who was smirking. Mizaru got up, barely able to stand. "This isn't over yet." A moment later a root shark came up and ate the crime lord. Kevin then crossed his arms, "Looks pretty done to me." Back in the ship, Eunice and Chiyo high-fived, but then noticed Simeon was gone and the burned duct tape on the ground. Chiyo then noticed the repair gun was gone. "Bad monkey." Eunice put her hands on her hips, agreed. "Bad monkey." Gwen, Kevin and Ben then reappeared thanks to Gwen's spell. Kevin looked around when he noticed Simeon was gone. "What did he take?" Eunice shrugged, "The repair gun we reprogrammed to work on his race. It's pretty much useless." Ben then yawned, "Now let's head home, it's almost Chiyo's bedtime." Chiyo then yawned, "But I'm not sleepy." Eunice then smiles, "So cute," she then petted Chiyo's head. Later on, Simeon put the DNA repair gun on a table as he said, "Here you go, one DNA repair gun. Which will make humans human again." He smiles widely at his lie. Milius the Incursion's king then picked it up. "You have a deal." Simeon then took a case and ran out. As soon as the monkey was done, Milius then handed it to an officer. "Take this to the lab nerds, tell them to reset its program so it works on human DNA again. And make sure the case explodes when he is out of range of our ship sensor." The Incursion's officer then bowed and took the gun. "At once, your majesty." Milius then laughed, "I can almost respect the monkey. But you can't out dirty deal an incursion." A few days later, Chiyo was in her bed laying under the covers, still in her pajamas, blowing her nose, which made Mr. Tadakichi, who was at her bedside, bark. Chiyo petted her dog before she coughed. Chiyo's point of view. "Well, I have a cold, now I have to stay in bed all day. Right now Big Brother is dealing with that BEN10 live thing. Now I'm going missing out on another adventure. I crossed my arms, bad enough I missed out on Henry's arrival, now I'm missing out on someone pretending to be my big brother for money." I then grabbed the remote from my TV and turned it on, and guess what came out? Will Harang. I growled and turned off my TV while grabbed another tissue. I hate him. Always bad-mouthing my big brother. News flash, Will. Without my brother you would be a DN alien or dead. I then yawned and closed my eyes. I was tired. Well, I'm sick, I need my rest. I then closed my eyes and went to sleep. I soon found myself in my old school in my old uniform and looked around and spotted Mr. Tadakichi, who said, "Hi Chiyo-chan." My eyes widened before I calmed down. "Oh, I'm dreaming." Mr. Tadakichi, "Yeah, about simpler times." I looked confused and he walked off and moved his head, signaling for me to follow him. So I followed my dog, to what was my old classroom. Mr. Tadakichi bumped it open with his nose revealing the events of my first day of high school playing over. Mr. Tadakichi then asked, remember how simple things were back then, back when your biggest worry was just failing a test, no supervillains or aliens. I then crossed my arms and said, and no big brother. Mr. Tadakichi then said, and no kidnappings, no cyborgs, no witches, and no super-powered Osaka. I looked away and said, I get it, you're the voice of all the bad things, well the good outweighs the bad. I've been to space. To other worlds, seen amazing literary magical thing, and got the best big brother ever. Sure I miss everyone, but I won't turn back even if I had the chance to. I then walked off and the school and my dog vanished and I found myself in my pajamas in the living room where on the TV a video of a pure red version of Swampfire fighting a pure green version of him. I tilted my head, what the? I then heard something and spotted a white-haired version of my big brother with red eyes and a red jacket morph into a red-eyed version of Big Chill without the Matrix symbol. Which laughed evil. At that point the normal version of my brother ran in turning into Big Chill and tackling the double. I heard my brother say, Chiyo get out of here it's Albedo. I then ran remembering Albedo form Big Brother stories. I then ran outside to see Albedo again smirking as he put on the Matrix, what I made is mine again. Albedo then became Ultimate Humongosaur, his version having red eyes and skin. The evil Ultimate morphed his hands into organic Gatling gun form and pointed them at me. I teared up and was shaking, when Big Brother who charged in as the normal Ultimate Humongosaur and started punching Albedo in the face knocking him down. In a moment Albedo changed into Ultimate Echo Echo, the evil version of which was red as his eyes. The Sonic PP then fired knocking Big Brother off him making him return to human. Before Big Brother could transform again to Sonic Disc fired on us making me tear up and scream at it hit. I screamed so hard I woke up in bed crying and scream. Point of view changed to third. Chiyo cried in bed as Ben rushed in, Chiyo are you okay? Chiyo then gave her big brother a hug and said, bad dream about Albedo. Ben paled, Chiyo the one behind. The BEN10 live show was Albedo. Chiyo's eyes widened as she fainted. Ben then covered her and said, how come she keeps having dreams that come true? What is it? He then sat down on Chiyo's bed, to stay with her. Ben smiled as he petted her head, don't worry little sister big brother isn't leaving you again. A few days later when Chiyo was all better, she and Ben were at the airport seeing off Sakaki and Osaka. Osaka gave Chiyo a goodbye hug, by Chiyo-chan I promised to stop by when I figure out how to cast a teleporter spell that brings me to where I want. Sakaki smiled as she bowed to Ben, it was an honor fighting beside you Ben. Ben bowed too, take care Sakaki. Sakaki blushed and turned to leave with Osaka. Osaka then whispered, I thought you were over your crush Miss Sakaki. Sakaki then whispered back, I am, he's just so cute. As Chiyo and Ben turned to leave. Chiyo looked to her big brother, did you hear the Vreedle brother have become plumbers? Ben rolled his eyes and crossed his arms, I thought it was some kind of joke but no. If it lasts a month I'll eat my jacket. Later on upon arrival in Japan. Tomo jumped out and said, welcome back guys. I bet you have a lot of alien stories to share. Yomi then pushed Tomo back, give them some breathing room. Osaka then held out her hand which glowed pink making the Tomo and Yomi jump back and hug each other in fear. Their bags then float off the plane and to them and Osaka smiles, I did it. Oh wait I'm sorry Tomo Yomi I forgot to tell you I'm a witch now. Tomo's eyes widen, wait Osaka has superpowers. Yomi was shaking, oh no, she then ran past Kagura, and Keirin and said, Osaka found out she's a witch. Run. Both girls then screamed and ran. Back with Osaka and Sakaki, Tomo was stunned as were the people looking. Osaka snapped her fingers making her bags hop behind her as she left, well I need to go broomstick, and black kitten shopping, I'm thinking of getting a boy kitten and naming him Crystal because it's cute. Sakaki blushed, kitten. Osaka then left smiling happily. Home sweet home, she then walked past a pale Kagura and Keirin and waved saying, "Hi guys. I'm a witch." The two girls then looked at the bag hopping along behind Osaka. Kagura was shivering, "I am so scared right now." Keirin was hiding behind her but quickly smiled as Sakaki walked by. A plumber car then drove by and Sakaki got in saying, "I have to go report in, sorry guys." Once at the plumber base, Sakaki was greeted by Pierce Wheels, who said, "Oh Sakaki, nice to see you again." He then held out his hand and Sakaki shook it, "Yeah, even though we didn't really talk at Chiyo's birthday party." Pierce then said, "Well, let me formally introduce myself, I'm Pierce Wheels." Sakaki smiles and said, "I'm just Sakaki, so nice to be back in Japan." Pierce then said, "I got transferred here to help with systems upgrading and overseeing, let me show you around and explain the upgrade tech." He then took Sakaki's hand and pulled her along. Sakaki was blushing brightly as she remembered Chiyo Shishi's saying she would find love through being a plumber with a man who wasn't completely human. Mr. Kimura was watching and smiled as he adjusted his glasses, young love. Such a appealing thing. In the Rust Bucket 3, Ben, Kevin and Gwen were high in the Earth's atmosphere following the Vreedle ship. Ben crossed his arms, "I know the Vreedles won't stay good." As they got closer they saw a large female Vreedle sitting on top of the ship and Kevin tried to turn away but Gwen's mana chain stopped her. Kevin then said, "Are you crazy? That's Ma Vreedle, the literal mother of all Vreedles. She's so scary she made Vilgax cry for crying out loud." He then hit a button to show a video of Ma Vreedle sitting on a crying beat-up Vilgax. Ben's eyes widen, "Damn. But you know the drill, look, we're in the atmosphere now, so there is air." He then turned into Spider Monkey and went ultimate and jumped out the ship. Ultimate Spider Monkey then fired a web line from his mouth and used it to pull himself to the Vreedle ship, where he looked into the cockpit and webbed both brothers in place. "I know you couldn't be good." Boyd then shivered, "Monkey, this is tasty." Ultimate Spider Monkey then climbed up to see Ma Vreedle and Pretty Boy jumping into his mother's arms. Ma Vreedle then held Pretty Boy and said, "You is scaring my baby boy. He's the only one I had that isn't uglier than pea soup." Ultimate Spider Monkey backed away and said, "Sorry, but I'm just here to ask what it is you want in hopes of avoiding trouble." Ma Vreedle then smiles, "Well, now isn't that nice, your mama raised you right, not that there'll be any trouble because nothing will stop me from getting what I want anyways. I want is your oceans, I'm going to use them all up to make more Vreedle clones of Pretty Boy here." She then got up and in a moment hit Ultimate Spider Monkey off the ship and he began falling to the ground below. Ultimate Spider Monkey then said, "This won't do." He then became normal Spider Monkey and hit his dial, making him turn into Stinkfly. Stinkfly flapped and flew in place for a moment. "Stinkfly, it's been years." He then flew down to an island, the close land mass he could find, and said, "Well, it has wings, so thanks you to Matrix." Once he landed, a red light and a beep returned him to being human. Ben adjusted his jacket and said, "Okay, that was just lucky. I'm starting to sound like Gwen." Ben heard something and moved through some bush to a beach and spotted Chiyo and Henry arguing. Ben looked confused, "How are you two here?" Chiyo then ran over to Ben and hugged him, "Big brother. We tried to stow away on the Rust Bucket 3, but Kevin found us because Henry burped." Henry then said, "No, he found us because you sneezed 5 times in a row. Then Big brother dropped us off here before he went to pick you and Gwen up." Ben then looked and saw the Vreedle ship landing on the other side of the island. "Did I by chance grab that magical good luck thing Gwen used to own without knowing it?" Ben then shrugged it off and said, "Whatever." "Chiyo, Henry, stay back, I have to go stop the Vreedle brothers' mom from sucking all the water off our planet to make more Vreedles." Henry then shivered, "Vreedles." He then spotted Ben turn into Big Chill and vanish. Chiyo smiles, "Big Chill, I totally turned into that alien." Henry stuck his tongue out, "So Big brother turned into all of the original Ben." Chiyo then said, "Yeah, then he went crazy and evil, when he lost control of the power, leaving him a monster made from all 10 aliens' parts." Henry then growled as he and Chiyo had a stare down, then stopped when they heard a scream and ran through the bush of plants and sneakily looked through it to see Big Chill captured by metal tentacles that held his arms in place so he couldn't reach the dial and covered his mouth keeping it shut so he couldn't breathe ice. Mavrital laughed, "A good mama knows to always be ready for anything, which is why I use the money from the bank I robbed to put metal arms that can hold all kinds of critters who can walk through things." The Utimatrix then glow yellow as it scanned the area, scanning Mavrital, the Vrital brothers and the pretty boy clones before it stopped. Ben then shivered knowing what it meant. Chiyo then fade into the planets and whispered to Henry, "The Vritals got Big Brother. We have to do something." Henry then said, "Like what?" Chiyo then replied, "Maybe you can shoot a laser and destroy the machine sucking all the water up to make Vrital babies." Henry then said, "I can't shoot lasers." Chiyo then crossed her arms and whispered, "You never tried?" Henry then held up a figure as to say, "Give me a minute." At that point the plants were moved out of the way by Boyd and Octagon. Octagon then asked, "Now what's do we has here?" Chiyo was shaking, "I'm Chiyo Tennyson, and that's Henry Levin." Henry wasn't paying attention, he was doing all kinds of things to try and fire a laser, not even noticing they had been found. Boyd then rubbed his hat, "Wait, yous two won't happen to be related to Ben and Kevin, what's you all?" Chiyo then nodded saying, "We're their younger siblings." Octagon then said, "I didn't know they had siblings." Chiyo then spoke, "But you two are supposed to be plumbers now. Why are you being bad?" Boyd then said, "It's our ma. She's making us." Chiyo then cried, "Then stop listening to her. There comes a time when you have to grow up and make choices for yourselves. I mean, Mom didn't want Big Brother to be a superhero, yet here he is." Boyd looked confused and picked up his blaster only for Henry to make a fist then open it, making a small orange laser fire form Henry's hands, destroying Boyd's blaster. Henry then jumped and cheered, "I can fire a laser." Octagon then looked to his brother, "What was yous going to do with that gun? This be children's." Boyd then tried to speak, "I just thought it's what we normal do so." Octagon then stopped him, "Sorry Boyd, my foolish little brother, but this is one of the few problems that can't be solved with exploding. This is a case of nature versus nurture." Boyd was crying, "But Big Brother, I don't want either." Chiyo then pointed to the pretty boy clones, "Do you really want to live in a world with over 1 billion of them?" Octagon then put on his plumber badge and handed Boyd his spare gun, "Little lady, you just spoke a truth we cannot deny nor argue against." Boyd then put on his badge, "That is way too many pretty boy Vritals, especially since most will most likely drawn in the rain, by rule of bell curve." Octagon then said, "Now come on." They then moved to where their mom was gloating and fired on the cloning machine, breaking it. Mavrital then yelled, "What the hells are you idiots doing?" Octagon then said, "Ma, we're sorry, but somewhere along the line we've picked up a code, we don't know where, but it's a code nonetheless. Now while we do want more Vritals, billions of pretty boys is just too many pretty boys." Boyd then said, "Place seeing the same face multiple times in the same room is creepy." He then blasts the metal tentacles, making them drop Ben, who became human as he landed on the ground. Mavrital then said, "You dare disobey your ma?" Boyd then said, "Yes, because we're not smart enough to fear the future." Mavrital then charged as Ben slammed down on the dial. Ben transformed into a Vrital that looked mostly like Boyd but in green overalls and white gloves. He then yelled, "Decagon!" as he used a German suplex on Mavrital, knocking her out. Ben then pushed her out and screamed, "I Vrital." He then quickly started shaking his hands, "I will never be clean again." Chiyo then fainted. Octagon then said, "Looking good, Ben." Boyd then said, "Yeah, you ain't never looked better." The Rust Bucket 3 then land and Kevin and Gwen got off in time to see a knocked out Mavrital and Ben returning to human form, being Decagon. Kevin then turned green and covered his mouth and ran back in. Gwen was shivering, "Nasty." Henry was shivering, "I'm going to have nightmare for a week now." Later on in the Tennyson house, Chiyo knocked on the bathroom door and asked, "Big Brother, you still in the shower?" Ben's voice then said, I just got out. I finally feel like I washed Dekugan off me. He then opened the door and walked out in green night pants and a black night shirt, finally clean. Chiyo then shivered, good, now let's go call Copper and see if he can help us lock Dekugan like Alien X. She then grabbed her brother's hand and pulled him along. Ben was walking down the street with Jessica hand in hand as Chiyo walked in front of them when she stopped and shivered, I sense something bad. A voice then said, hi Ben, and all turned to see Julie. Ben then growled as he said, we're done, can't you leave me alone? Julie then crossed her arms, not till you pay a visit to the Flame Keeper's circle. Chiyo's raised an eyebrow, is that cult that worships an alien named Daioh who they believe will show up and fix all of Earth's problems? Julie looked at Chiyo and yelled, it's not a cult. Ben then turned the dial on the omnitrix and became 4 arms and held her up, and I'll ask you to not scream at my little sister. Because I would really hate to have to cross a line. Julie's eyes widened as Ben put her down and returned to being human, fine, I'll go, but after this you will never bug me again. Understand? Julie nodded, and said, trust me, it'll be worth your time. A few hours later, after being given a tour by the Flame Keeper's circle's leader Conduit Edwards. Edwards brought them back to the entrance and said, so when Daioh does return he will gift the planet with advanced alien technology. Before he could finish, Chiyo cut him off by saying, that's illegal. Intergalactic states you can't give tech to a planet that isn't that level yet, meaning level 3 planets can only have level 3 tech. Ben crossed his arms, I've seen a human handle level 5 tech not that much more advanced than ours, and in one mess up it exploded. There was nothing left but burned bones. Julie was about to say something but Jessica stopped her, look, you have a nice place, that does a lot of good, keep that up, just don't go breaking no laws. Okay. Now we have to be off, Ben has to get me home soon. Ben then noticed Chiyo going to a door with a squid on it and Edward grabbed her hand so tight it made her yell, stay away from there. In a moment Edward was pinned to the wall by Swampfire, making him let go of Chiyo, don't lay your hands on my little sister. Edward held out his hands and said, I'm sorry, that room is just staff only. Ben then dropped him and looked to Chiyo who was holding her wrist. Ben turned to her and returned to human form and said, come on, let's go get Gwen to take a look at this, and Julie, our deal is done, leave me, my family and my girlfriend alone. Later on at Gwen's house, Gwen was using magic on Chiyo's wrist, healing it up, luckily it was just a bruise. Ben had a hand on his chin, what could have been behind that door to make him do this? Henry then walked by and said, you're going back all stealthy, aren't you, Ben? Ben nodded, yes, and it'll enrage my ex, so bonus. Later on, as members of the Flame Keeper's circle walked past a hall in strange combat gear, a clocked chameleon whispered, not a cult, my alien, but. At that point Chameleon spotted the doors and walked through it to see a tank, and inside the tank someone he knew. Chameleon gasped, making him reappear as he said, Vilgax. Vilgax in his true form turned to see him, BEN10. Chameleon was stunned, great, another thing from my little sister's dream is right. Vilgax was about to speak as he said, then your sister is an amazing prophet, I'll be sure to make use of her. This cult listens to me. Believing me to be Daioh. One order is all it will take. Ben then roared as he said, you will leave her alone, squid face. He then used the point on his tail to slash the tank, making the water drain away slowly as he spoke with murderous rage, you are weak. Or else you would have attacked the moment you saw me. Vilgax was shocked at the tone of Ben's voice, you've changed, Tennyson. I can respect the new you. Ben then screamed, shut your mouth, you over Goran Platt of Calamari. At that point Edward came in yelling, stay away from the Great One. He then threw a fireball, making Chameleon move out of the way, only for Edward to vanish and reappear behind him. He hit Chameleon in the back with a fireball, making him hit the wall as he said, someone has augmented themselves with alien tech. In a moment he turned to Dial, becoming Echo before he went ultimate, and Julie walked in and Ben said, your Daioh is Vilgax. His sonic disc then went off, multiplying to rain the sonic scream through the building, making Edward fall over. Julie fell over as well as Vilgax's tank shattered, leaving him on the ground as he roared in pain. Ben then started walking out as he went to a wall on the outside and used his ultimate form's claws to cut a message into it. A message that read, "You leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. I will cross the line if it means protecting those I care for." Ultimate Echo then cut underlines into the message as he said, "And I mean it." He spotted some of the members trying to teleport away but couldn't the sound harming them too much form them to be able to focus hard enough to use their powers. "What the hell did you guys do yourselves?" Ultimate Echo then walked out the front door and flew off. As the Flame Keepers circle were putting Vilgax into a new thank as they said, "We are sorry, O Great One." Vilgax looked to Edward, "Don't worry, when I'm done with Earth you won't recognize it, but for now to leave Mr. Tennyson his family and friends alone, he isn't as pure-hearted as he once was, he is a danger to your and my own lives. And for my plans to work we must all be alive." Julie then listened on and looked at it listening to Diagon's voice. She then turned and left not looking back, as she grumbled, "I was finally happy somewhere and BEN10 had to ruin it again. There is no Diagon, just Vilgax. You couldn't let me be happy, could you, Ben? You just had to ruin it." She put her hands in her jacket pocket and kicked a can as she said, "No matter what I can't escape from you." That night in Ben's house. Ben was holding an ice pack on the back of his head, while he was talking with his family. Carl was sitting down, so Vilgax is taking advantage of people's beliefs now. Sandra crossed her arms, "He has no honor, does he?" Chiyo then was shivering, "Why do my dreams come true?" Sandra then held her and said, "It's okay Chiyo, Ben has handled Vilgax before, he'll do so again." Ben nodded as he said, "Yeah, but where did those Flame Keepers guys do to themselves?" He then rubbed the back of my head, "I took a fireball to the back of the head, for crying out loud, it should burn but it doesn't, it just hurts." Chiyo then snapped her fingers, "What if it wasn't really a fireball, just a sloppy energy blast?" Ben then said, "Well, it did feel kind of like one of Gwen's energy blasts." Later one Ben was watching Chiyo sleep from her doorway. Ben's point of view. "I couldn't sleep, I didn't want to risk slipping into a coma thanks to this head injury. I remembered what Vilgax said, wanting to use Chiyo, saying he respected me. I don't know which one hurt more. The thought of my archenemy being after my little sister. Or him respecting me. I feel so dirty. I looked at the Yuta matrix, what allows me to be a hero? Then to Chiyo, my little sister, and one of the reasons I use the Yuta matrix to its fullest. I smiles, I don't care what Vilgax thinks, I'm still a hero, and he won't lay a finger on Chiyo. I looked at my hands and made a pair of fists, I'm BEN10, a hero since I was 10. My only mistake was trying to be normal to win a girl who clearly didn't want me for me. I crossed my arms as I looked to Chiyo and smiles, little sister, you're in safe hands. I won't let Vilgax lay a finger on you. Return to third-person point of view. While the sun was down in America, it was just rising in Japan. Sakaki was walking to school talking on her phone, "Yes mom, I'm dating a guy from work." "No, he's not made of mud." "Mom, not only is he a mammal but he's half human." "No, he's not a cat." "Look, I'm almost to school." She then hung up and spotted that gray cat. Sakaki then reached to pet it and it bit her hand and she pulled it back. "Why do I keep doing that?" Osaka then came down out of the sky riding on a broomstick. "Hi Sakaki, wanna ride?" Sakaki shook her head and said, "No thank you." Osaka then said, "Okay, see you at school." She then flew off. Sakaki then continued walking. I will never get used to Osaka the witch. It was a bright sunny day at a tennis court. Chiyo was in a tennis outfit playing tennis against Ben, who clearly wasn't trying too hard to play seriously. Right as Chiyo hit the ball back over, a strange ship landed on the court and a man in a white suit with a green face that had no nose but still had nostril noses. The alien looked at Ben and said, "The Omnimatrix is connect to a Terran." Ben then looked at it and said, "First, this is the Yuta matrix, the Omnitrix was destroyed. Second, how can I help you?" The alien then said, "I am Tekadon Weapon Master Inspector 13. Ben's eyes widened, "But you guys never leave your planet." 13 then grabbed a gun and said, "Correct, no one ever sees us leave our planet and lives, He then pulled a trigger capturing Ben in a net and pulled him into the ship. Chiyo then screamed. She saw the door closing and ran in, diving into the weapon master ship. Chiyo then snuck around, looking around, spotting a lot of tekadon. Soon she came to a lab where Ben was strapped to a table. Ben then said, "What do you want anyway?" 13 then pulled out a laser buzz saw, the only thing to ever defeat the tekadon to improve them. Ben smirked and said, "Try it," and boom. 13's eyes widened, explain boom. Ben smiles, simple, knowing someone would try to get it by cutting off my arm. I had a friend install a self-destruct protocol. The Yuta matrix will short itself out, leaving it a useless pile of metal waste if my arm is cut off. 13 then put down the buzz saw, then we'll just have to work around that. Begin hacking. I now moment small robotic arms touched the Yuta matrix, and as Ben was about to say he could hack the Yuta matrix, a robotic voice said, "Master control hacked. Mental controls disabled." Ben rolled his eyes, "Really? Well then I don't need to touch it to change Yuta matrix hum." Before he could finish, a robot arm put a piece of tape over Ben's mouth to stop him from using voice control. Chiyo then snuck out when she spotted 13 had turned her back. She hit a button on the table and Ben was freed, and as he pulled the Yuta matrix away from the robotic arms, a beam of light sparked from it and hit Chiyo, making her yell for a moment. Ben then removed the tape. Chiyo, 3 then turned holding a blaster, and as he fired, Ben slammed down on the dial for Diamond Head, only he wasn't the one to transform. Next him Chiyo turned into a female of Diamond Head species. She was dressed in the same outfit Diamond Head had back when Ben was 10, but the white side was replaced with pink. The Chiyo looked confused as 13's ray bounced off her back at his hand, making him drop the gun. 13 then said, "Security system engage." The door then closed as Ben said, "Chiyo, quick, you can open it, just think about your hands being a crowbar." Chiyo's hands then morphed into a crowbar shape and she opened the door. As she and Ben ran, she asked, "What's going on?" Ben looked at the Yuta matrix, which had turned pink. "I don't know, I think the hack has messed up the part of it that allows it to know how to transform." He tried to make the dial come up but it didn't, so he just turned it and watched as Chiyo came XLR8. Chiyo's female XLR8 looked a lot like Helen. She even had 3 fingers. The white on XLR8's outfit was replaced with pink. They then noticed laser guns popping out of the walls and Chiyo grabbed Ben and raced off. Chiyo was screaming as she found a corner to hide in and she put Ben down. She was shaking. "Big brother, you have to fix this, I'm not the hero you are." Ben then said, "I don't think I can." "But Chiyo, you've saved the day before, freeing me from the Forever Knights, getting the Vredal to stop their mom, and let's not forget you've used the Yuta matrix before." Chiyo was shaking, "But you're BEN10. Ben then said, "Well, today it's Chiyo 10. In a moment tekadon robots showed up and Ben turned the dial, making Chiyo change from XLR8 to Swampfire. Chiyo's version clearly had female shape, and the red on its body was replaced with pink, and she had what looked like a skirt made of plant matter around her waist. Chiyo then fireballs at the tekadon robots, knocking them back while Ben ripped off a vent and got in. As he said, "Chiyo, hit the center of the dial on your chest and get in here." Chiyo did it, returning to being human, the dial still on her chest, and crawled into the vent. As they crawled, 13's voice said, "My ship sensor can track you, human, and whatever DNA strain you use. The Omnimatrix will belong to the Tekadon Empire." Ben then said, "Ultimatrix." Chiyo then said, "All you do is made doom and death. How can you live with yourself?" 13 then said, "We at Tekadon make a product, what others do with it once they buy it is not our fault." Ben then looked at the dial, still not coming out, but he smiled as he said, "Then you really are evil." He then spotted another vent below them and knocked it down, falling down into an armor. He then caught Chiyo and set her down. Ben took a Tekadon robot hand as 13 walked in. He fired on him, "Then you also won't mind this." 13 was then knocked back by the blast. Ben then turned the dial, making Chiyo turn into amphibian, Chiyo's version only differencing from Ben's version in the pink eyes. Chiyo tried to phase through the walls of the ship but couldn't, right, phase-proof walls. More Tekadon robots then showed up as Chip fired of electric blast to try and fire them. Ben was firing at the robots with the glove as he moved out of the way looking at the Matrix. Remember the hack said it hacked the master controls, that's it. He snapped his fingers. Chiyo, I just remembered something, the master controls are working, that's why the dial is messed up. Matrix way big. In a moment Chiyo turned form amphibian to way big, the great size of the alien smashing the ship wide open as she was larger than it. She was on her knees hovering over Ben as metal fell everywhere. She then yelled as she started crushing Tekadon robots with her hands, and 13's jaw dropped as he tried to run. Most get to escape pod and leave ship destroyed, defeated by Terran child. All pride lost. Before he did, Ben smiled as he said, relock master control. The Matrix then turned green as Chiyo returned to being human, the dial now gone from her chest. Ben then transformed into XLR8, his version now having green fabric over the formerly exposed flesh of his arms, legs and tail. He then ran at super speed and grabbed 13 by the back of the leg, then ran around at high speed dragging him along, saying, "You lost to the Tennyson." When he timed out, 13 was knocked out and Ben smiled as he crossed his arms. Chiyo blinked, "Wait big brother, I thought you didn't know how to fix it." Ben smiled and said, I took a gamble. I remember the hack to the master controls is what stared this, so I figured if I turned it off the hack damage would turn off with it. Ben then slammed down on the dial and became Spider Monkey before he went ultimate. Ultimate Spider Monkey then spat out webs trapping 13, now let's get out of here and call for a pickup, we are the first people to catch a Tekadon weapon master. Later on at Mr. Smoothie, Ben was at an outside table eating chili fires with Jessica as he talked to her about it. I mean, how easy is this thing to hack? Jessica then said, 1. It's a bootleg, they aren't good. 2. Chiyo is becoming a little hero, isn't she? Ben looked to see her getting a smoothie and walking up to them drinking it. He smiled, yeah she is. Chiyo then stopped drinking for a moment and burped. She covered her mouth and blushed form. Embarrassment. Ben laughed as he said, that's my little sister. Meanwhile, in his plumber jail cell, Inspector 13 was talking to himself. Loge entry note to self, the Terran subtype of Tennyson are not baseline Terrans. They are able to defeat Tekadon robots, and show no fear of facing death. Inspector 13, also be most lookout for Tennyson Benjamin. Even without the Omnimatrix he is still able to defeat all. Inspector 13 then remembered Chiyo, and look out for youngest Tennyson, she is young but developing into a threat. Showing great skill with alien transformations, if continually mentored by Tennyson Benjamin she will be a greater threat to the Empire than Tennyson Benjamin. Onimo, who was in the cell across, formed them, the girl's name is Chiyo, she is BEN10's little sister. Inspector 13 then said, Terran, tell me all there is to know about Tennyson Chiyo. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author JBoy44 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.